Today's video is sponsored by Squarespace, so if you need a website, go to squarespace.com/Heaton. This is the northeast coast of England. It's a beautiful day and everybody is out enjoying the warm summer evening, including me. I'm currently on a wander with my 6x6 medium format camera. I've got no ideas of what I want to shoot and no expectations of what the evening might hold for me. One thing I do know is that there are a lot of people out and about, and I'm starting to think it might have been a better idea to come out at sunrise. But what I find is that the light in these parts isn't often as good in the morning as it is in the evening.
In the morning, the sun is going to rise from over there, which is fine if you get good clouds, but more often than not, it's just really harsh, bright sunlight. Whereas because the sun is setting in that direction, it means that the sky over to the east just gets a lovely pastel pink colour. So timing couldn't be better. We've just had a high tide and it's starting to make its way out, which means all of the footprints here in the sand, the tide's going to have washed those away. So what I'm looking for is fresh sand without any footprints. And that's quite difficult to come by because this is a very popular place. So perfect timing. Obviously I need more than just sand, I need some interest, so I'm hoping that as the tide goes out, it will reveal some nice rocks or some stones, anything. I mean, it's a lovely evening. Got beautiful light. I'm pretty much ready to shoot now. And I've come to the quiet end of the beach as well. Yeah. I think minimalist is what I'm looking for. Because I'm shooting with the 6x6 square camera, it really works well with minimal scenes, so really don't need much. Yeah. Well, we'll see what we can see.
And I can tell you exactly what I could see. Nothing. But in the time I'd walked a mile up the beach and a mile back down, the fast-moving tide had already changed the landscape and started to reveal what was hidden just a few moments ago.
Wow. This was underwater 5 minutes ago. Yeah. And you know there's going to be some amazing colour in the sky, so yeah, pressure's on. But it's looking like a beautiful evening. But I don't just want to shoot light, I want to find a composition. That's what I really want to find.
Now that is what I need for exploring these long stretches of sandy coastline. I wonder if my accountant would let me write it off as a business expense. Yeah, probably not.
So I'm hoping we might have a composition coming up here in a second. There's a lot of people in that direction, so inevitably people will be in my shot. It's fine, they're going to be so small, won't be a problem. But here we've got a reflection pool, like a tide pool, that's been left by the receding tide. And as you can see in the middle of the pool, there are a couple of rocks. Now that, to me, looks super minimalist. I reckon we could be on here. A little bit of colour reflected in the pool. Bit of interest with the rock and the sand and the shapes and the curves. Oh yes, right. Okay. Assuming nobody comes walking through my scene, I think we could be on here. I'm quite excited. Let's crack on.
Ah, there she is, my 1996 Hasselblad 501cm. I hope my love for this camera never fades. Because this is a waist-level camera, I need to adjust my tripod to the correct height. Once I had my camera in the right position, I needed to then load some film.
So for anybody interested, I'm loading Provia 100, which is a film that gives nice contrast, nice saturation, really emphasizes any color we get in the sky. Now, I wouldn't necessarily recommend loading your film at the beach, especially when you're as inexperienced as I am. However, I was in a rush when I left the house, so never had time to load it back at home. And it's a little bit fiddly. It's a lot fiddly. Come on.
Well, after about 47 minutes of complete faff, finally the film was loaded.
Okay, that is ready to go. All right. So I've taken a meter reading and it's given me, or I've calculated, 1/10 of a second at f/16. Very simple composition, very, very straightforward, rock in the center. And it's all about the pool of water reflecting the interest in the sky. So I'll take this image now and then I'll wait to see what happens with the light. But yeah, it's, I suppose I've got what I came for, which is a nice simple composition.
I was happy with how this image came out, but I'm not so sure about the composition, which I'll talk about shortly. Oh, quick shot for Instagram, at Heaton Thomas if you're interested.
So this is the light meter I'm using. It's a Sekonic. And the way that I'm metering the scene, I'm using it on spot mode, which is, well, like a spot meter in any digital camera. And I'm just pointing it pretty much at the brightest part of the sky. And that gives me an exposure for middle grey. Now obviously I don't want the sky to come out middle grey because it's going to be brighter than that. So what I'm doing is I'm adding a stop of light. So my exposure reading was 1/20th of a second, and then I dial in a stop of compensation. And the way I got that information, the way I'm learning this, is through Nick Carver. I don't know if you guys know him. He's a fantastic film photographer on YouTube. Well, I had to go on his online course, Metering for Film Photography, something like that. Oh, I'll link to it below, I can't remember the name of it. But my God, I thought I knew how to meter. I thought I knew everything there was to know about photography. Apparently I don't. So a lot of my images that you will have seen in my last film video, where a lot of those were underexposed, and it's because I wasn't metering correctly. Well, Nick taught me a method how to meter properly, and it's fantastic. So if you are interested in that, you have to go and you have to go and get his course. It is fantastic. All right, it's looking great. I think I'm going to make this my last exposure. So this is 1/2 a second, and all I've done is I've taken a spot meter reading of the sky, which is giving me middle grey, and on this occasion I've added 1 1/3 stops. So that should give me the correct exposure. So yeah, let's do this. Only this time actually, which I forgot to do because I'm filming, I'm meter reading, you know, I'm checking everything. This time I'm going to make sure that I enable mirror lock up. So now the mirror's locked up. I take my exposure, 1/2 a second, f/16, focused on the lighthouse. Beautiful colours in the sky, minimalist, simple composition. Everyone's gone home. There we go. Ah, yeah. I think that is the beach at Whitley Bay complete.
I just mentioned that I took this second image with 1 1/3 stops of exposure compensation versus only 1 stop on the first image, and the differing results show how little margin for error you really have with this film. You can see on the image on the right hand side how the highlight detail on the left of the photo isn't as good as in the first photograph, which is confusingly on the left hand side. This just goes to show how exact you need to be when working with a film which only has about 6 stops of dynamic range. Now, I do like both of these images, and what drew me to the scene in the first place was the reflective qualities of the pool and how that would showcase the texture of the clouds above. The rock in the middle helps hold the attention and kind of gives the viewer a stepping stone to the distant lighthouse, but I think I could have done better. I should have committed to the image, taken off my shoes and got in the water, and by doing so, I could have brought the rock further down the image and given the photo a little better balance. Next time. So, I still had a few shots left on that roll of Provia 100, but as you can see, things have changed since the previous evening. I've decided to come to a different beach. It's about 5 miles further north than where I just was. There isn't much here, just a couple of fishermen in the distance. This place is much more open and has a very industrial feel, and I quite like it. Although at first it might feel like there is nothing to photograph here, after a while you do start to notice things. Not that. Things like shape, form and texture. Look at the sand. What could cause such an unusual topography in the beach? This is what caught my attention. Before committing to the tripod, I like to quickly check my composition handheld. Looks good. The sand is a bit soft here, so to prevent an inevitable slow sinking of the tripod, I make sure I dig it in deep so it's not going anywhere. Using the same method as on the previous images, I meter my scene and come up with a reading of 1/4 second to f16. Mirror lock up. Take the shot. This image might not be as vibrant or as impactful as the previous photo, but it does have a certain quiet nature to it. And although on this day I didn't have the epic light of yesterday, the film has definitely helped bring out the most of those bizarre hummocks in the sand. The reason I say this is because Provia 100 has about 6 stops of dynamic range, which means anything you shoot with this film will have a very high contrast, which is perfect on a flat day such as this. I'm now back on the same beach where we started. It's later in the afternoon and I still have a few frames left to shoot, and just look at those storm clouds. My apologies for the wind noise. I chose not to attach my mic to the camera because it draws a little bit too much attention from passers-by. Before I mentioned that Provia 100 has about 6 stops of dynamic range. Well, look at that sky. It's quite bright, so I'm attaching a graduated filter to prevent it from being overexposed. I've also dropped in a 6-stop ND filter so I can slow down the crashing waves and create more of a calm abstract image. At this stage, I had just taken a meter reading and was calculating my 6-stop ND filter. I'll be honest with you, I thought this image was a complete waste of time. I was worried that that woman on the left-hand side of frame would walk into my shot, the wind was howling, and I wasn't even sure what I was trying to achieve with my photo. I literally think I was just trying to use up film. Look at my face. That is not the face of somebody who is full of confidence. But as it happens, the image turned out okay. It's not my best, and I don't think it'll make this year's calendar, which, by the way, I'm thinking of making a square calendar this year, so if that sounds interesting, let me know in the comments. But yeah, it's not my best, but it is definitely better than this face would suggest. From a roll of 12 possible images, I shot a total of 8 frames with only these 4 photos which are worthy of showing. I really didn't want to send off an unfinished roll to be processed, but the weather had taken a turn for the worse, and the pressures of YouTube meant that I needed to get the film developed as quickly as possible. Next time though, I'll be sure to use the entire roll of film. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, be sure to subscribe, and thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring today's video. If you don't know who Squarespace are, they're an all-in-one platform where you can log on and build a website without any knowledge of coding whatsoever. It's so easy, even I can do it, and I've made a couple of websites using their platform. So if you do need a website for your portfolio or shop or anything really, go to squarespace.com/Heaton and give it a free try, and if you like free trial, use the offer code Heaton for 10% off your first purchase.
Hey, quick note to self. My first shot I messed up because I was metering for F22 I think, and shot it at F16, or the other way around. Title for this video: In Search of Nothing. Maybe. Alright. Soon find another shot.